Hi, everyone. We're here with Alexei and Trudy. Could you give us a little bit of background on your education?
Do you want
Sure.
to go first?
Yeah, for sure. So, hey, people. My name is Alexei. I did my undergrad in Finland, in university in Finland. It was undergrad in environmental engineering. And right now, I'm a PhD student at UFT studying molecular genetics.
Cool. Hi, my name is Trudy. I'm a third year in engineering science at U of T. I'm majoring in robotics, and currently I'm on my PEY, which is like a co-op for those of you who don't know. And I work for a Y Combinator startup that works on machine learning models on mines.
Okay, awesome. Could you tell us a little bit about how competitive it is to get into the program that you completed during your undergrad or are currently a part of?
So I guess I'll start first. So for engineering science, it's quite a high entrance requirement, I would say. Generally, the cutoff averages for my program in particular are sitting around a 92 to 93%, which is your high school admission average. However, keep in mind that this average isn't like necessarily applicable to other engineering streams. And these are just things that you can just check online on each university's website. And another thing to keep in mind is that for me, when I was applying to other universities, I actually got like a boost to my academic average of around 4% due to me being in Alberta and studying, doing my high school in Alberta. So this was something that happened at universities like UBC and Western. I don't know if that information is current right now, but it's definitely important to check that out if you are applying in like this year or something like that. Um, so yeah, I would say that my program is quite competitive to get into, but also there's another thing to keep in mind is that it's not just about your grades and that they do look at other things like your extracurriculars. And there's also a video interview that I did as part of my application process where they kind of just asked you a critical thinking question and you just have to explain your thought process. So yeah, it's pretty like a well-rounded application. So
Interesting. Well, I had a different experience. So my undergrad wasn't particularly hard to get into. Also, I'm from Russia, so I was an international student in Finland. And basically, all I had to do was to take an English language test that university was kind of conducting. And there was a math and chemistry test. And I wouldn't say that either of those were particularly complicated. And we did not have to submit our resume or anything like that. I don't know if it changed at all because that was back in 2011, so it was like 9 years ago. It's been a while. Maybe things changed, maybe they haven't. I'm not entirely sure. But I can tell you that back when I was an undergraduate student there, I actually got my undergrad for free. There, that was kind of part of the whole deal. Finnish government gave free undergrads to international students. I don't know if it's still a thing. I think it's still a thing for European students and maybe Canadian students, but you would need to double check yourself. So yeah, I would say getting into Finnish universities is not particularly hard, especially compared to what Trudy just explained about her program. So yeah, look into that if you're interested in studying abroad.
Okay, awesome. That was a really informative answer. So once you get into the program, how difficult is the actual program, like the course load and just everyday life year by year?
Trudy, you can go first.
sure. Okay, so obviously this is really particular to my specific program of engineering science. I would say that it is a pretty difficult program, and it's kind of like famous for that, I would say. But just a few like ways to for me to explain like why a lot of people find this program difficult is just because there's a lot of class hours. So I remember in my third year, my first semester, I had around 30 hours of class per week. And in first and second year, it's generally around that number, maybe a little bit higher. And obviously, that's just like your pure class hours, and that's not including things like preparing for your labs that you have every week or your assignments that you have every week. so it can get a bit overwhelming. But another thing that I would say is that in general, the pace of the course is faster than what I've experienced from other faculty courses. So I've taken courses in, for example, computer science and also in the business, like the Rotman side of engineering. And for those courses, I find that the pace of the course is generally a little bit slower. And I also think that for my courses in particular, that the material is like a little bit more abstract and harder to grasp or practice because it's just very rooted in theoretical nature. So not so much like practical problems that you solve, but more so like the theory behind why things work like a certain way. So those are a few things that I would say that make the program like a little bit more difficult than some other programs, I would say. And in terms of like my effort, my personal effort compared to our general grades, I would say, is that for engineering science, mostly our courses sit around a 75% average, maybe like so around mid to high 70s. But keep in mind that a lot of the people who go into engineering science have admission averages of mid to high 90s. So I would say that in general, even though we expend the same or even more effort in university, the grades are a lot harder to come by. So yeah, I guess that's my comment on why my program is a bit difficult, I would say.
Yeah, so okay, in terms of my undergraduate program, I wouldn't say it was particularly overwhelming. And the reason for that is that Finnish education system is really focused on experiential learning. So they would, as opposed to having, for example, very difficult exams for you and kind of trying to filter students out through this way, they focus more on letting you choose your curriculum and what kind of courses you want to take. They focus more on lab work and teamwork and asking you to look for information you need yourself. And if you had experience with, for example, inverted classroom approaches, if your university or your high school experimented with those, then you kind of get an idea of how that looks like. And what it ends up doing is it allows you to, first of all, choose your curriculum, which kind of paints a picture that you can later present when you're looking for a job or looking for like grad school and things like that. And it also gives you a lot of time to do extracurriculars and different side projects, which is extremely useful because I did end up, after going through this program, in a PhD program at U of T, and that was largely because of extracurriculars. So I had some projects I did with other universities in other countries in Europe. I had some hackathons and the projects we were doing with my friends. So that kind of filled my resume a lot with different kind of, experiences I can show off. And that worked. So it's kind of different approach. I would say main takeaway is if you feel like your undergraduate program is not really demanding, that it's a good opportunity for you to use the time to do some extracurricular stuff that's going to be useful later.
That's some really great advice. So laymen might think that math and science are the pillars of engineering. So could you talk about whether high school students have to be good at math and science to get into engineering? And also what other skills might people need to excel?
Well, okay, I would say that you definitely do need math. You will be using it regardless where you go. There will be some sort of math one way or another. So better be good at it before you join. I would say some advertising of YouTube channels I like. If you have problems with math and some concept you don't understand, there is this lovely channel called Three Blue, One Brown. Just go on YouTube, look them up. They're awesome. Like if there is something in math you're not getting, they will explain to you in intuitive, visualized way you will love it. So definitely do pick up math. On my side, I can say that I did a lot of stats in machine learning, and for that you need linear algebra. So that's not really hard actually if you dig a little bit. So it's mostly like vectors and matrices and different manipulations you can do with those. So if you're particularly interested in, for example, machine learning and stats, then look up linear algebra and that should be good. But for some other fields like chemistry, physics, robotics, I anticipate there is more you need to know than just linear algebra.
Yeah, I see
Trudy.
Trudy nodding in agreement.
Yeah, Trudy, you can take it on from here.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with what Alexei said about math. I think that a strong foundation in math is definitely recommended for engineering, especially. So I think that in my particular experience, I would say that physics is also very important. So I did full IB in high school, but even so, I didn't do IB physics. I did chemistry and biology in IB. But just with that, I think that I wish that I had gotten a bit more familiar with my physics concepts and maybe taking physics in IB if I had the opportunity to do so. I think that for physics, especially in robotics, and we also have an aerospace option, we do courses in related to dynamics and kind of like planning how, for me, like how robots move and how manipulators like robotic arms are moved. So for that, I think physics is pretty important. For other streams of engineering, like maybe biomedical engineering or chemical engineering, probably an interest in like chemistry, biology is definitely needed. But I'd say that for a good foundation, you definitely need like math and physics.
Okay, thanks for checking this out. We will have Alexei and Trudy featured in some other videos that we will be posting, so stay tuned for those.